Okay, so first, I'm not really from Detroit, and I have to say that. But Detroit is the current and future home of the Anishinaabe Ojibwe people. And we are very lucky to have an amazing design and music and hip-hop collective that is actually fighting for indigenous rights and environmental justice and water keeping in the city. And they've all become young cultural innovators for Salzburg. And what would be a discussion about Detroit if we didn't talk about our bike culture? I want to say that our city is just under 700,000, and its Black labor never left. They've turned their attention to bike culture and their talented design, and also the slow roll. And you can find out about East Side Riders there. And I have to say, our car culture is pretty on point. So, when you think about cars, when you think about Detroit, I want you to not just think about the usual big auto, but also the way that we customize our rides and show them off in the city during our Woodward Dream Cruise, which you can always see every year. And because we also really want to think about both our train station's future, which has recently been bought by Ford, so it doesn't look like that anymore, but also our vernacular architecture, which is home to the way that we foment social unrest through Mike Kelly's mobile homestead, I thought, what better picture than that? And then, because I have to take a break, I want to talk about how we fight for Detroit justice and the fact that returning citizens are actually going to be our growing population. So how do you disrupt the prison to population pipeline? You do it by using design. So we have the Detroit Justice Center, which is using design to actually reconsider how we deal with prisons in the US. And because we have amazing design teams and design firms that are thinking about urban agriculture and are doing master planning with people and citizens, you can find all about Akoaki as well as Crop Up. But because this is the way that they do public engagement and are really thinking in an animated way about the city, you also have to think about how it's changing and challenging the way that our actual city's planning and development department has to work. So of course, our official city department now has to produce a mixtape, right, in order to actually just even talk about design. So we're thinking about the typography and typology of our city. It's 139 square miles for only just about 700,000 people. And so when you think about where those 700,000 people hang out when we have nice weather in the summer, it's in the Dekinder cut. It would be a mistake to think that this is our high line. It would be a mistake to think that this is our low line. This is our cut. This is the way that we move through the city from our downtown and our midtown and our riverfront also to Eastern Market. And because we also have an island in the middle of our river, it looks like this. So we have spaces of natural beauty in the middle of the city that makes you forget that you're in an urban, dense area. And Belle Isle was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, who you might know from other projects like Central Park. So I just want to say that we also have Albert Kahn, who not only revolutionized the way we think about factory buildings and factory spaces, he designed and built spaces like this, which is a living artwork in the city. It's Detroit's biggest art object. And when we think about activating the Fisher Building in places like this, of course we think about it by having a skate park in it. So we've got a half pipe, we've got people, we've got skating in the middle of this dynamic art object right in the new center area of town. So we're always mixing up what's old and new and trying to bring new lenses to the way that we think about our work and our city and our people. And so it's really important that we think about how we both were important in the past, but also how we move forward in the future. And so this is the Freer House. Many people do not know that the collection that is in this house, which is right in the middle of town, is actually responsible for the founding of the Smithsonian's art collection. So you have important things like the Peacock Room from Whistler that was bought by Leyland. And because most people know about Mies van der Rohe in Lafayette Park, I just thought I'd take a moment and say, Detroit winner. And I had a deep breath. Put that in there just to contemplate for a minute. But he was really inspiring in the way that he thought about how the city would change over time. Another inspiring person is Buckminster Fuller, who actually is a collection of the only surviving Dymaxion houses in the Henry Ford Museum. It's a museum of history of innovation and design. And it's a forensic collection that looks at everything that it took to go into the automation of the automobile and everything that came out after. And because our artists and designers can buy buildings in Detroit, they can install permanent collections in Black spaces that actually are one of our famous ceramic artists in town. So find out about Anders, find out about his building, come see it, that's even better. And then we also have designers that are really reconsidering what happens to disused power plants. This is actually not far from our riverfront. And so this is Hygienic Dress League, and yes, it's spelled that way. And they are a team, they're a husband and wife duo that actually are looking at kind of the disruption of ideas around sustainability and environment. And then we also have amazing people that are actually bringing back like screen printing and doing it as a cottage business and doing it at the highest quality spec. So you've got Ron Waters in One Custom City, again, able to buy his business, grow it sustainably. And I'm gonna take another break. And then we also have a dynamic husband and wife design duo, Ali Sandifer. You can actually buy their products on Westell. So I would say check them out. But everybody in Detroit wears two hats. So not only is she a designer herself, she's also running a large-scale development organization that's actually bringing back properties like the Fisher Building. And for those of you who were in Saint Etienne, you know I'm very partial to our favorite Finnish designer, Lavu Studio, who very early on recognized that architecture and design could play a real role in bringing back food businesses and food spaces. And because I also like pie, I thought I'd tell you about Sister Pie. And because Detroit is just a place that always thinks about how to reconsider the taken for granted, we have, of course, our own hot dog, which is chili, mustard, and onion. But for a pescatarian like me, I've never been able to enjoy it. And so now I have a Detroit vegan coney, courtesy of a very literally named business, chili, mustard, and onion. Thank you so much. Whew.